I'll make a motion to excuse the mayor tonight.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We're going to go to agenda updates, and I am going to move the council interview to after board and staff updates, right before citizen comments. Just so it's not at the very, very end of the council meeting. So that's what we're going to do with the update on the agenda. Let's move to the consent agenda and EFT. July 30th, accounts payable for the amount of $119,244.45. June accounts payable amount of $12,983.26. Payroll for July 5th, 2021 in the amount of $27,311.70. And if we can get a motion to move the consent agenda forward.
I'll make a motion to move tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
To accept it, I guess.
Okay. Let's go to number 4. We've got minutes for the June 22nd, 21 meeting. Do we accept the meeting minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
That's part of the consent. Yes, apologize for that. I should have put that inside of the consent agenda at the same time. Okay, so we've accepted that. Number 5, let's move to police and fire updates. Is Chief on board?
I am. Thank you, Jeff. City Council. Just a few things to go over. The 30-mile ceremony went really well. I want to applaud everybody that put that on. It was a fantastic tribute. I was glad I could be there. As far as personnel issues, Officer Scott Uran is going to retire at the end of the month after 22 years of service with the Cle Elum Police Department. So we congratulate Scott and wish him well on his new beginnings. Also on that note, our newest officer, RJ Partridge, if you remember, he's the lateral police officer that we hired from Maui PD. He is off his FTO program, so he's out on his own. And we expected him to be off the FTO program early due to his previous experience as a police officer, but I still want to congratulate RJ for a fine job of getting that FTO program done and done quickly. Couple of events. Our National Night Out is going to be held August 3rd from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the City Park. That's the park that's located at 2nd and Pine that has the skate park joined to it. So we're inviting one and all to come and enjoy the National Night Out. We've invited the Sheriff's Office and different fire departments, hospital district, Forest Service, etc. And we're hoping everybody brings equipment and things for the kids to look at and play with and have a barbecue and hang out with the kids for a night. And also, I don't have the ordinances with me today, but I wanted to talk about them real quickly. I have worked with our city attorney in Cle Elum on drafting 4 different ordinances that I just feel the Upper County needs to have in place. I wrote these ordinances so that they could be easily adopted by all 3 cities, so there's consistent law enforcement throughout the Upper County. The need arose from, like the noise ordinance, for example, is an ongoing issue with the city of Cle Elum, and it's under our nuisance ordinance, so we didn't have our own ordinance on that. So it's been drafted, and I can forward that to you guys so council can review that before the next meeting. And other ordinances include a disorderly conduct ordinance, an indecency ordinance, and also one on aircraft. And you might ask, why aircraft? Well, turns out we've been having helicopters land in the city of Cle Elum and not in designated areas. So believe it or not, we had to come up with an aircraft ordinance. I would still suggest Roslyn adopt it once I get it presented to you folks. And the reason being is times have changed, the area is growing. I can foresee a need in the future, and this way you guys would already have it in place. But I'll get those presented at our next council meeting in Cle Elum. And once they are adopted, then I would like to bring them forward to Roslyn and South Cle Elum. So just a heads up, I will get those ordinances. There's a group email to the, I'll send it up to Michelle and she can distribute it to you guys. And let's see, what else? August 4th, we have the Will Craven dedication up there at Roslyn at the Coal Miners Memorial. We're looking forward to that. And we'll be bringing on extra people to help with traffic control, etc. for that event. And that's all I have unless there's questions.
I just wanted to say it's a bummer to hear Officer Uren is leaving, but that is awesome. That's like a childhood memory of him being an officer. And then RJ, I met RJ, and what an awesome person to bring on the force. So really nice guy, and that's really great to hear that he's joined you guys. So great to hear.
Yeah. Yes, and just on a side note, RJ is going to be an appointed Roslyn officer. We did that to appoint officers per city so they could help with special events, etc. And then, of course, COVID hit, so it kind of killed my program there. But now with the restrictions getting better, we're hoping to reinstitute that. And just so you know, RJ's yours.
Awesome.
Great. Great update, Chief Bland. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Is there anybody here with the fire department? Anybody on call at the fire department? Chris or anybody on? Okay. It appears that nobody's here for an update, which is fine. Let's go on to number 6. Let's move on to committees and commissions. Hello?
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let's go on with committees and commissions, and let's start. Let's get an update from the Historical Planning Commission. Tom Missel.
We're moving forward with the language for the master plan, and we're having another meeting. I think it's this Thursday, 4:30 to 5:30. A lot of good material coming forward. They're really working hard on it and doing a lot of research. So I really applaud the group for the work they're putting forth. It's a lot of extra time they put in multiple meetings a month to get this done. So good group, working really hard and getting some good information.
Great, and it sounds like you have a pretty diversified group now with lots of building experience and so forth.
Exactly. We've filled out pretty good. I think we still have one vacancy, but we've done a really good job filling the committee back out again, commission back out again.
Good job, guys. Let's hear from the CAC.
Well, I'm the liaison, but I see that Ken Blanford, the chair, is here. So Ken, did you want to make a report from CAC?
Hold on just a second. I'll have to unmute him.
We're going to unmute him. If we can give him a minute, that'd be great.
No, I hadn't planned on giving a report tonight. I just wanted to log in and see what was going on.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I can go ahead and give a report from the last meeting then, if you'd like. CAC is looking forward to a joint meeting with council. They hope to further understand their role as an advisory committee to the city. They also expressed a desire to coordinate with both council and the fire department prior to any burning or noxious weed abatement after the logging ends. CAC looks forward to participating, listening, and learning as they implement the goals of the land stewardship plan. CAC would also like to know if there's money available for future projects in the forest. That would be like monitoring, drone mapping, signage. I told them that I would contact the city treasurer and bring that information to the next meeting. So Sarah, you're warned. And also I would just like to add, and this was not discussed at the meeting, but there are 2 vacancies on CAC currently, and I'm wondering if the city has received any applications for CAC, and if so, when we might expect to see new members.
Have we received any applications?
No.
I'm getting a no that we have not received any applications for those 2 spots.
And then Kathy, I'll just add, so it sounded like, Ken sent me an email that sounded like they wanted to have the joint meeting. We had planned that joint meeting for tentatively August, but it sounds like CAC might want to push that to September. So we'll send out a formal invitation to council on that. And then the goal is to have a fire department representative at the next CAC meeting. So I guess that would be the August meeting. But I still need to confirm that as well. They couldn't make the July one, so we're going to try for the August one, and I just need to confirm that. So
Okay.
a little bit of.
Okay. Anything else, Kathy?
No, not unless Ken has anything to add that I missed.
Okay, great. Thank you for the update. Let's see here. I'm with the Cemetery Commission, so I'll just do a quick update. I'm going to, same thing I'll comment with like Chief Bland. The 30 Mile Fire was a fantastic event up at the cemetery. I think there was probably 150 plus people there. It was organized exceptionally well. The traffic plan worked with Public Works. Thanks a lot to our Public Works Department for setting up the road blockage, and we literally had no issues whatsoever. But just a spectacular event up in the cemetery. Otherwise, that's it for the cemetery right now. That was the only update we really had to go. And so I, at this point, am going to move to our Public Works Committee and have everybody get an update from our Public Works Director, Bob Simplot.
Hey, guys.
Oh,
Well, we read meters for the second time this year, and that went actually pretty well. We did a little quicker than last time. Kind of found some of the hidden ones that we need to find. After that, we finished painting all the curves. There's a couple we didn't get just because of traffic. We'll try to bounce around sometimes when the painter's out in this next couple weeks. We also painted the curb yellow in front of City Hall for the bus stop, so people don't park there and block that. The bus's parking spot, and it's kind of hard to get out between City Hall and fire station sometimes. Painted the yellow stripes in front of the fire station. Next thing, some park work. We stained one of the picnic tables at Rungy in the back for the Croatian picnic. We also rebuilt one of the old timber picnic tables. We took 2 apart and made a nice one. Little sturdy, a little safer for, maybe elder folks that are going to be there, and even anybody really. Some were kind of in rough shape. Next thing, you might notice the fuel crews are going to be out and about around town. They've been working. They started Fifth Street Alley. They were up by the Arizona Alley there next to the park today. They're just cutting brush and stacking it that they will eventually haul away or chip. So you might hear some chainsaws. They're not starting too early. Usually around after 8 o'clock. The crew's got a couple days of crack patch training this week, so it's kind of good training for them to have, and it'll help us out next year when we do our own crack patching, or future, realistically. TMG Services serviced the gas chlorinator at the water treatment plant. The computer install got pushed back again, but it was July 6th, so we did get that in. Everything's going good and running fine. We also did change the alarm passwords for Jim and I, so it'll call me first if there's an alarm twice, and then call Jim. So there's 2 guys that get called out instead of 1. Also a little update with, obviously we use chlorine gas, and there is kind of a shortage, but I was able to get a couple extra bottles, so we're pretty much, with what we're running per day, our dosage, we're good till October. And as soon as we get a tank or 2 empty, I'm just going to reorder so we stay ahead of the game. Consumer confidence reports were finished. We posted it online July 1st. Probably saw it at the post office in City Hall, and it was also mailed out with the utility bills. Other than that, just mowing parks and cemeteries and routine maintenance. So.
Okay, thank you, Bubba.
Thanks,
good
Bubba.
update. I don't want to go away from Public Works yet. I'm also going to have our city engineer speak to one of an application for a grant pertaining to update with the transmission line, which also lines up with the greenhouse gas resolution. They sort of go hand to hand. So because we're going to be looking at that ordinance tonight, I'd like to have the engineer speak to the process that sort of brought that up to where we're at today.
Certainly. Theo Leonard here, Granite Civil Services. One of the funding options available is through Department of Commerce Public Works Board. They have loans for both construction and pre-construction, pretty short-term, 5-year on the pre-construction, but pretty decent interest rate at 0.94%. So as much as anything, the strategy that we developed and what we ended up doing, we got the application submitted July 9th, Friday last week there. The approach was we effectively have about $510,000 total available in the water fund. We need about $340,000 of that for capital improvement projects like the reservoir cover replacement, what we just did with the computer and the skate up at the treatment plant, items such as that. That effectively leaves about $170,000 available towards the transmission main replacement. In terms of budgeting, when we look at everything that goes into the project to get it shovel ready, geotechnical work, survey work, wetland biology work, the preliminary engineering report, the design engineering, we effectively went for the loan for that total amount. I've got for everything to get us to the point of where it goes out to bid for construction about $315,000. So we take what we need to essentially get shovel ready versus what we have available. We got about $140,000 budget shortfall there. So the approach then for the pre-construction loan on the Public Works Board was to essentially ask for $200,000 loan. That would get us the design engineering, the geotechnical, the survey work, plus a little bit of buffer essentially on kind of what our shortfall is versus what we're requesting. For the city, we would be on the hook for about $115,000 then out of the $315,000 total to get the project shovel ready. If we are awarded it, for a 5-year term on a 0.94, $200,000, it amounts to about $5,000. Very reasonable, I would say. And then on top of that, one thing it does as well, if we don't get awarded this loan, the original plan was to wrap the design engineering work into the USDA loan. If we are awarded it, it goes a long way towards that USDA loan because it gets us that much more shovel ready. Instead of asking for about $1.7 million on the USDA loan, be looking for about $1.5 million. Plus we go in and essentially say how we are ready to rock and roll. We have everything ready to put it out to bid, so it's just a construction loan we'd be going after. So if there's any questions on that, that's kind of a high-level summary. I'm happy to follow up, answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, Council?
Yeah, Theo, did you give a monthly amount for what the loan would need for servicing the loan?
Pretty much $41,000 per year is how I looked at it. It's about $3,800, I want to say. It was $3,400 to $3,800 per month on the payback.
Okay, so $3,800 per month.
It rounded out. It was 34 to 38. It was right about $41,000 per year.
Okay.
So it's a 0.94, so a lower rate even than the USAID loan, but we do plan on still applying for the USAID loan. The idea with this would just put, it's a lesser interest rate, so a little bit money savings, but it is a shorter term loan, so you pay that loan quicker back at a higher rate. But the overall, if you look at it money dollar-wise, we're saving money doing this approach, but puts us in a much better position to apply for the USAID loan because we are shovel ready at that point. And this is a huge get for this first step of the transmission line to be ready for the federal funding that's possible to come out for infrastructures and so forth that the government and the Fed seem to talk about. And then this is a huge step to get there. This would put us a third of the way down the road. And we'd still apply for the USAID loan, just not as much at the time. So we're borrowing money no matter what. This is just a shorter term loan and a quicker way to get there.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else?
Nope. Great update.
Oh, and I should add, sorry to interrupt. It ties in with the greenhouse gas resolution. They have essentially a checklist. In order to apply for the loan, you have to have certain things in place for your comprehensive plan. That was one of the items that was on there, was to have a specific greenhouse gas resolution. In speaking with Michelle, we already have some of those bases covered just with adopting the new IBC, some things that are in there with the energy code. It's not necessarily anything new. It's more of a requirement as part of the application.
And I think that's it with Theo. Did you have something, Michelle?
So just real quick and this is strictly just informational, but we did get our 60% on CIP 1. It's a little bit of a gear change, but still public works. CIP 1, we got our 60% plans and our 60% cost estimate. So it's just an update as to where we are on that. I did attach it under boards and staff. So it is an attachment there, but we don't need anything. It's just strictly informational, but just to give you guys an update that is also moving forward.
Any other questions?
Just one more statement with Public Works. So there was one good informational thing that Theo came out with, and if I missed anything, I'm sorry, Theo, but you could probably help me out. That our clear well number 2, right now we have it at 10 feet, so we have it not full capacity just because of the pressure that we've tried the different fixes, and the different fixes just keep pushing the problem other places. So clear well number 2, we're hoping to possibly decommission coming into wintertime as a plan, and then looking down the road on when we can replace it. He was looking at all the calculations to what we need and talking to the right people and finding out that clear well number 2 is really not needed at this time. So but that's the game plan for the repair on clear well number 2. That is not as urgent as we thought, so that is really good to hear as of right now. Things do change, but that's what Theo's report was, and that's of course what we're going to go by.
Yes, I second that. The anxiety level is way down on that clear well number 2 right now.
And the reason why we have such that big expansion is, I guess, beyond us. That's the question of why we have that clear well number 2. And
Nolan, I think it's a different conversation. I'm going to cut you off.
But
I'm
yeah.
going to direct this
That's
another
fine.
council meeting. Okay.
That's perfect.
I think we need to do an update. If we're going to do an update clearly on the whole clear well from beginning to end. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but I don't want to give bits of information. So I'm going to stop you, and we will bring this to the next council meeting with a full update on the clear well, okay?
That's fine.
Thank you. Did I miss any committees or commissions at this point in time that we need to do updates? How about the library? Is there any updates with the library right now?
The only update that I have is we are doing summer reading program kit, and that's going to be in the paper this week. I've got it on the social media site, and basically parents are calling our phone number or emailing and signing their kids up for summer reading program. And I am right now putting together kits to send home with the kids.
Great.
And I don't see anybody on here for the library, but if somebody's on here that wants to speak, if you just hit star or asterisk 3 and raise your hand, I can unmute you and you can speak.
Anybody on the library group? Or library board, I'm sorry. Anybody raising their hand? Okay. Let's move to number 7, boards and staff. Any updates, staff or board, anything going on right now?
Oh, yeah, I guess. We found some potential permitting software here last week, so that's actually pretty reasonably priced, and I think will make things a lot better to track. I mean, that's our biggest issue is tracking everything in this office. So it was actually unbelievably priced. So we may move forward with attempting to look at that. I have to talk to the mayor about it here when he returns, but that, and I think that's it, unless there is something.
Did you say tracking, Michelle? Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Like what?
Permit tracking.
Yeah, it's permit tracking. So right now we have to manually send out all the emails and everything. This will actually automatic. It's almost like a cloud.
Yeah.
And then it will also So it has the applicant, from what I saw here last week, it has the applicant answer a series of questions, and then it will send them the forms that they need to complete. So it almost acts as a secretary. So I haven't got to see the actual, like, got to try it yet. They just showed us the demo, but I mean, it looks like it would save considerable amount of time and be able to track it. So, for example, when an application comes in, it'll automatically send an email to CEO if there's a review portion that he needs to do, and then he checks the box and adds his comments, and it's all in one place. And that's been our biggest issue. We're doing all of that manually right now, and it's just it doesn't work. It's not working. So we've just got too many coming through now to be able to do it that way anymore.
Yeah. So we'll have a presentation of that down the road.
At some point here. I mean, once I've actually got it to get in there and try it and everything, then. But yeah, it's.
Cool.
I'm still skeptical a little bit because it's almost too cheap to be real, but we'll see.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions before we move on? I'm going to move on to, this is where I've placed to put the council interview at this point in time. So I would like to move forward with the council interview process. Bear with me. I was not prepared for this, but we will do a good job and figure this out today. So we've got, what we'll do is we'll interview one person at a time. We'll put the other two applicants in what we call a waiting room.
Yeah, so you'll just go into the waiting room. It plays you some really fancy music. It'll be really enjoyable. And then we'll let you guys in one at a time, and then everybody will come back in after. So.
And I think we're going to start with Jenny, and that will be our very first interviewee. And I've got the list. I've got a list of 5 questions here that we're going to ask. And I'm also going to ask council after these 5 questions if they have a direct question for that interviewee themselves, if you have something you'd like to ask that pertains to one of the questions or a separate question, okay? Any questions from council at this point? Any questions from council?
No.
Okay. All 5 council members hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, give me just a sec.
Okay.
Start with Jenny.
We're going to start with Jenny. And we'll put Tom and Janine in the waiting room, please. How are we doing there?
Good.
Okay. Make sure, Tom and Janine, can you hear me at all? I just want to make sure that you cannot hear what we're talking about. Any response from Janine or Tom?
They're listening to that really fun elevator.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, Jenny.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Hold on, Jenny. Don't panic. We're gonna Star. Is she active?
Yeah, she's on there.
Okay. Hey, Jenny, can you hear me?
She just needs to unmute herself.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Great. Yep, we sure can. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for considering me for this position.
Well, we thank you for applying. It can be a tough task, so thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think the best is get not too confused here. I'm just going to read the questions off one at a time.
Okay.
And I'll let you thoroughly finish, and then we'll just move to the next. And don't be afraid if I get a little antsy, just slow me down if you're not done. Okay?
Okay, I will.
Okay, so we're going to start with number 1. Why do you want to be on City Council?
I would like to be on the City Council because I love Roslyn. I've lived here for 15 years, and I'm really proud to be a community member. I've given a lot of time to volunteering, and I really feel excited for the opportunity to more fully impact the policies and visions of our community should I be chosen.
Okay, good. Let's go to number 2. What do you believe is the role of a council member, and what skills, qualities, and experience do you bring to that role?
Well, I believe the role of the city council is to represent the interests of its constituents and also to propose and pass ordinances, manage the budget, and establish long and short-term goals and priorities. Yeah, that's what I think the role is.
Great, great. Let's go to number 3. What do you see as the top 3 challenges of the city?
Well, if I might backtrack a little bit, I think there was a second part to that question on what could I bring to this board?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'd like to just say that I had a professional career in local government and economic development that included business attraction, retention, redevelopment, and tourism. My second career was actually when I moved up here, and it includes working both at the Syncadia property at Syncadia and Swiftwater Cellars, as well as downtown at Inland, Networks, Heritage, and the Kitchen Sink. By the way, I still miss my job at the Kitchen Sink. I love that place. But I feel this gives me a really keen understanding of our business corridor and the tourism component, which is here and growing. And yet, while I have this experience and viewpoint, first and foremost, I'm a committed community member that cherishes Roslyn and its historic and small town charm, the multi-generational population, and its place in the forest. I've spent the majority of my time living here serving on various boards and committees, and I've spent a lot of time listening to the collective voice. As a council member, I have a strong viewpoint, yet I'm a team player. I'm very polite and respectful, and I know the importance of preparing for meetings and understanding the agenda and associated materials.
Great. Great. Can we move to number 3? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Great. So no, that's a good answer. I'm sorry I cut you a little short on number 2. So that's
Oh,
what
no.
I want you to do. Just speak
good.
up, okay?
You got it.
Number 3, what do you see as the top 3 challenges of the city?
Well, to me, the top challenge is our infrastructure and looking ahead to ensure long-term growth management. I also think nature conservation and leveraging the expert information we receive and then applying it, and also creating a healthy business corridor.
Okay, great. Okay, good answers. Let's go to number 4. What do you think the city does well and or needs to improve to reach our vision for the city?
I think what the city does well is it listens to its citizens. And I love the different committees, and I really feel that everyone I know really feels like really inclusive and heard. I think the urban forest preservation and how you've managed the bark beetle infestation has been brilliant, and also fire management. What I would like to see to meet my vision is that a 20-year plan is established to support the inevitable growth management of the area.
Okay, great. Okay, let's do number 5. Last question from the list, and everybody we ask the exact same questions. Number 5
Okay.
is city government is made up of an executive branch and a legislative branch. Can you give me an example of an action that can be made by the executive branch and an example of an action that can be made by the legislative branch?
Huh. Well, okay, can you give me that question again?
Yes. The city government is made up of an executive branch and a legislative branch. Please give me an example of an action that can be made by the executive branch and an example of an action that can be made by a legislative branch.
Well, an example of the executive branch would be a budget decision, like if you wanted to give like X amount of dollars towards the urban forest management, and for the legislative branch, I would say code enforcement. For instance, putting in a like pay to park program or something like that.
Okay, great. And so that is the 5 questions we are going to ask. We've taken a list of about 8, and those are the 5 we're going to ask to all council, or all interviewees. And I'm going to reach out to council now, Jenny, while you're here, and I'm going to ask council if they have any questions pertaining to any of these questions or others that they would like to ask you at this time.
Okay.
Jenny,
Go ahead, Tom. I'm gonna ramble. I'm gonna ask names and just say nay or yay if you have a question. Okay. Tom.
I'm good. I liked her answers, and she answered everything that I wanted to hear, so I don't have any follow-ups. Thank you.
Nolan.
No follow-up.
Nolan.
Oh. Sorry, no follow-up.
Okay. Kathy Cook.
oh yeah, Jenny, I was just curious. Where you said you worked in city government, I think in California. Is that
Yes.
right? I was just curious where you were at, just out of curiosity.
Oh, in Santa Clarita, which is in North LA County in the high desert.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that it, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff Shear.
No follow-up.
Derek Gruber. Nope. Okay, great. So that concludes this interview, Jenny. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put you in the waiting room also, and we're going to pull the next candidate will be Janine Brodeen, and we will bring her in next. So thank you for your interview, okay? And just hang
Thank
tight
you
in the
so
waiting room.
much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Hello? Janine?
Hello, can you hear me?
Janine, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for applying for the council position.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. So are you ready for the 5 questions? We've asked the same 5 questions. We'll ask them to everybody. And then what I will do is I will ask council if they have any direct questions pertaining to these 5 or anything different after we ask the 5 questions, okay?
Sounds great.
Great. So let's start with number 1. Number 1 will be, why do you want to be on city council?
I believe I have a lot to offer. I have to speak very quickly. As many of you know, I served on the Planning and Historical Preservation Commission for 10 years and for 4 years before that on the Historical Commission. So I'm very familiar with municipal codes. I led a team in rewriting a number of them, some of them back to 1917, which hadn't been touched in a long time. Really more importantly is I love Roslyn, and I want it the best community can be. I'm a good team player. I'm pretty good at listening and discussing and clarifying, and I think I would be a good member in this particular council.
Great. And by the way, if I happen to if I move to a question and you're not done, just interrupt me and just let me know that you're not done. Sometimes I tend to not hear it well, or just I lose track. So don't hesitate to stop me.
All right. And are you hearing me okay? I was having a little issue with my computer earlier, but
I'm hearing you fine. I have more of a hearing problem myself, so I think everybody here can hear you. Let's go to number 2, Janine. What do you believe is the role of a council member, and what skills, qualities, and experience do you bring to that role?
Okay. Well, Paula's primary role is attending meetings and being prepared to discuss issues and relating to policy and the strength of the city. So I have a lot of leadership experience. I've managed a number of organizations, including the University of Washington teacher training, where I managed not just people, but also grants. So I have a pretty strong familiarity with grant writing and budgets. in my professional career. I was a public school teacher for a long time, did in urban high school and urban middle school and many different cultures. So I think those experiences of working with people of diverse opinions could come in very handy. I have, as I said before, I have a really strong understanding of the codes. As the chair of the Planning and Historical Preservation Commission in 2008, I worked with Greg Dorn and the commissioners then to draft the comprehensive plan, and our current comp plan is heavily based on that. So I have a pretty strong understanding of the goals of that plan, and I council's goal is to use that plan for understanding what our future of Roslyn's going to be in, say, 20 years from now.
Great. Great. Good. Let's go to number 3. Can all the council members, can you hear her all right?
I'm getting nods. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I can't see the computer. I'm at the office today filling in, so I can't see faces.
Okay. There are lots of nods, so it's going okay.
All right. Good. So let's go to number 3, Janine. What do you see as the top 3 challenges of the city of Roslyn?
Top 3 challenges are Roslyn's past, Roslyn's present, and Roslyn's future. And by those I mean maintaining our historical integrity in a real way where we're not cookie-cuttering Roslyn into a town that looks like any old historic town. That's a priority from my point of view. The present, of course, we want to have our citizens live in a safe and healthy and thriving environment and maintain infrastructure that we have. I really have admired the way this council has really made sure infrastructure in Roslyn is stronger than it's ever been, in my knowledge. You know, when I was on the planning commission, I would tell the commissioners, I said, we need to think 20 years in the future. What's Roslyn going to be like in 20 years? What do we need to do now to help it be the Roslyn we want in 20 years? So that past, present, futures, they're big categories, I know, but I think challenges are real and we need to keep those in our thinking.
Great. Let's go to number 4. What do you think the city does well or needs to improve to reach your vision of the city?
Well, I wanted to clarify that question. When you say city, city, that's a broad term. That's all of us, right? Is that the city administration? Is that...
No, as I look at this question, I'm going to say, let's say your vision for the city, and I would say that pertains to city government, residents, and the entire city of what your vision of that city.
Okay. Well, the city's doing a lot well. As I just mentioned before, I think the attention to infrastructure, to water, to sewer, to the forest, how things are everyday activities is really strong. I have a strong sense of how well this team works together. I think, from my point of view, I think involving the community, and this is going to be a funny answer because we haven't been able to involve the community, but once we can, to have more frequent community gatherings where we can discuss the things that are important to all of us, all 900 of us. I'm not sure how many of us there are now. We seem to be here all the time. Like, for example, when there was an issue about vacation rentals, and so I worked with the council, I think with Doug Kilgore and my friend Kate Regan, and we organized a community meeting where people with very different opinions sat in that room, same room you guys have spent time in, and didn't even argue. Just say, I want this. We had realtors there who wanted to buy property right now, but talk in a really clear and honest manner and disagree respectfully. So, I guess I'm saying human behavior, human interaction, involving the community more would be a goal I think we should include.
Okay, great. Okay, let's go to number 5, Janine. This is the final question on the list. City government is made up of an executive branch and a legislative branch. Please give me an example of an action that can be made by the executive branch and an example of an action that can be made by the legislative branch.
Well, executive branch would have to be the mayor and his or her hiring, firing, making major decisions. There's a whole host of things a mayor does. So, one example is, hiring people.
Okay.
And, the legislative branch is, again, city council, so making policy about how the city runs, how we deal with different issues that come up as challenges.
Great. Great.
Okay.
So, Janine, I'm going to say that concludes the 5 questions that we asked the council members, the interviewees. And now I'm going to reach out to each council member and ask if they have a question that pertains to this or another question. And then that will end our interview for your interview process. But let's start with the 5 council members and see if they have a question for you, okay?
Sounds good.
Let's start with Tom Nissel.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, I don't have any follow-up questions, and I appreciate your answers, Janine.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Nolan Weiss.
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay, Nolan, thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine Cook.
I'm good. Thanks, Ginny.
All right. I'm happy to answer anything, but I appreciate the time.
Jeff Shear.
No follow-up questions, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Derek.
Derek Gruber.
No follow-up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Janine, thank you for a great interview. And what we're going to do is we're going to put you back. We're going to have you go back into the waiting room, and we're going to pull the final interviewee out, and we're going to do the follow-up, and then we'll bring everybody out, and we will go from there with City Council, okay? So thank you very much.
Sounds good. Just let you know there is no music in the waiting room, just in case.
There is no music.
Oh boy.
Well, that's a very quiet room.
I can sing. I'll just I'm
Well,
fine.
thank you, Janine.
All right, thanks, you guys. See you later.
Let's bring in
Thank
Tom
you.
Duran into the virtual room.
I just tried it while we were on the public works meeting on my phone.
Tell when Tom's in.
Oh. Okay. Music in there. Tom should be in here.
Tom. Tom Duran.
Hold on.
Yes,
There you go.
Can you hear me?
I definitely can. Can you hear me?
I sure can. And I can't see a computer, so I'm going to ask council if they can make a motion so Michelle can see on the computer that you can hear everybody.
Yep, they're shaking.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So Tom, we've got 5. I'm going to ask 5 questions that we've asked the exact same questions to the 2 other interviewers. And what we'll do is when we're done, I will ask council if they have questions that pertain to these questions or any other questions they would choose to ask you, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, let's start with number 1. Why do you want to be on City Council?
Well, first, I wanted to thank you. I appreciate coming in for the interview. The short answer to the question is I'm really interested in Roslyn government and the issues facing Roslyn, and I'd like to help by if I'm fortunate being appointed to this open position. And I think my background and experience provides an opportunity to provide a perspective that could be of help for the council with a lot of the issues that our council is being faced with. I'm sure you've seen my name at the council meetings. I've probably been to many, if not most of the council meetings since before COVID. I don't talk very much because honestly, there was nothing that I saw that raised my ire. I look at the policies of the council and where things are going. I've talked to most, if not all of you guys at various times, shared my citizens' views of various issues, solicited or unsolicited, all hopefully received well. But, public grandstanding, that sort of thing, is not me. And I prefer to collaborate and work with people to understand what their issues are and move forward. I should add that I'm not retired. I know the council position can be taxing from talking to a number of you folks. It takes a lot of time. I have the passion to join the government, and I have the focus and the time to do the work necessary for the position. So, you know, I just would love to work with the city of Roslyn and help to solve some of the issues that are coming down the pike that are arrived, actually.
Great, thank you. And during this process, sometimes I get a little antsy, so if I cut you off, please don't hesitate to stop me and let me know you're not finished so we can backtrack, okay?
And vice versa. If I get too wordy, let me know and I'll cut it short. I'm trying not to do that. I know our council meeting is going to run long as it is.
Nope, it's your interview, Tom. We want to make sure you say what you'd like to say, okay? We're here to listen. So let's go to number 2. What do you believe is the role of a council member, and what skills, qualities, and experience do you bring to that role?
So I think a council member, especially, and first of all, if I'm appointed, I'm going to learn a lot about what the role actually is. So this is an outsider's view of what they think the role is by watching and talking to folks. You know, there's a council person for a small city like Roslyn, I see, has a number of roles. The two obvious legislative roles are council person represents citizens to the government, and a council member as part of the council is responsible for directing policy and approving funding for the city government. But I think there's a wider role. I think, especially in, like I said, a smaller community, the council member is not only the emissary of the citizens to the government, it's also in part an emissary of the government back to the citizens, kind of explaining what's going on, right? Because there's a lot of rumors that float around and people aren't informed, and nor need they be, because they're citizens or they have other things to do. And so I think that's a role. I also think that from talking to you and seeing what's going on, I think a council person is also an emissary to the region, regional governments, to special purpose districts, all the various committees. I think that's really important, especially with a small city, when it comes to establishing those relationships. So obviously it's a job. Council, one of the roles is to do the job, to review the data, review the information, and do their best to collaborate with your colleagues to come up with what you feel are the best solutions to advance the city's interests.
Great. We're going to move.
Oh, and what my skills would be. Sorry, Jeff.
Not at all. Go ahead.
So I think many of you know I'm an engineer by training and by profession. 40 years. I'm now retired. All of my professional life has been spent engineering municipal infrastructure, building communities, and land use issues. The first 2/3 of it as a consulting engineer running an engineering department, and then the last third of it actually managing the construction of a really large master plan, which included a $20 million state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant, reservoirs, large storm infrastructure, highways. My responsibility was to manage all of that. My responsibility was the infrastructure, planning, design, construction, and land use. So where I think that brings some positive perspectives to the job is, one, when you're working on a very large project like that, you're actually partners with the public sector, right? You're not adversarial to them as this thing gets built out for 25 years. So you develop relationships, you understand what their issues are. Building a big treatment plant, obviously you're working hand in hand with the municipality that's going to take it over. It allows you to understand the issues that the agencies have, life cycle, maintenance costs. You're imbued with all that. Second thing is it it provides you with insight for us. Some of our big issues coming up are infrastructure. We'll probably talk about that the next question, but and then land use. That kind of experience I've had, I think, could provide a perspective worth listening to.
Great. We're going to go to number 3 right now. Number 3 is, what do you see as the top 3 challenges of the city?
So obviously, a city's got all sorts of issues from A to Z. I see 4 primary issues from a 30,000-foot level that the city is facing. None of these are going to be new to you. You're working on all of them, but they're still pretty significant issues, and they're not easy to solve. And the first one, I think, is maybe the most obvious, which is continuing to work on finding ways to stabilize or increase revenues. With the issues that the city's going to be facing, without an adequate revenue base, and I know that's easier said than done. You guys are really working on this, but without an adequate revenue base, almost all the other issues are way more difficult and maybe impossible to solve because there won't be enough money for adequate staff, equipment, getting things done. So I see that as the biggest issue. The second one, and I put it at second because it's really the one that's the existential threat to Roslyn, and that's wildfire risk management. It's an issue that Roslyn can't solve by itself. The city, as you know, is working on the new ordinance and right-of-way firewizing, and of course the rough thinning. But taking that to the next step is going to require allies and support with folks that are beyond the city of Roslyn. But the reason I put it up there is because I think it's the kind of thing that's got to be in the back of the city's mind all the time. We have numerous examples across the West, we don't need anymore, of what could happen to a mountain town if things go sideways. So I think we owe it to ourselves to, and I'm not saying that you're not doing that, but we owe it to ourselves that if the worst were to happen, we're as prepared as we can be. I think the third issue is aging infrastructure. I'm not going to go into detail on that. I have a lot to learn about it, but I know, a fair amount about it. I will say that I was listening to Theo's presentation pretty closely, and I had a couple questions I wished I could ask, but I 100% agree with him that to position yourself for grants that could possibly be coming down the line, as a result of the federal infrastructure program, if it ever gets passed, you're way better positioned to get those grants and loans if you have at least 30% design, which is often called shovel ready. It's not really shovel ready, but nobody goes past 30% design because unless you have the money, because you may not get the money for 2 or 3 years. DOE has different standards for their stuff than USBR or this, that. So, codes will change. You don't want to get to 100% design because you may have to go back and revise plans. 30% is where it's at. He's advised that. I think that's a really good idea, not just for the water main. We should think about other, wherever we can put that in to get positioned. Back in 2009, when the Obama infrastructure package was passed, which was the last major infrastructure package, I was part of a team in Pierce County that was submitting grants to try to get money through that. It was a very interesting experience. Unfortunately, we weren't successful because the package wasn't all that big, but that gave me quite a bit of insight. The last major issue I see is tourism and growth management. This, is a tough egg. You're working on the master plan ordinance, the parking program, a number of things. You guys are well aware of the issue. No easy answers, limited tools in the tool belt. but it's something I think about a lot in terms of, thinking what out of the box things might be done to, to help the city manage that better. Because, the growth that's happening in the region and in Roslyn, it's only going to get more before, it gets less. So those would be the four major issues I would see.
Okay, Tom. Let's go to number 4. What do you think the city does well or needs to improve to reach the vision for the city?
So I think, and I've mentioned this, I think, to at least several of you. The one thing I think the city does really well is I have been from the very beginning been impressed with the council and with the council's natural desire to be collegial and be polite, even when obviously people have different opinions on the way things are going. I've seen the council delay decisions on a number of occasions to allow more information to come in, for people to talk more, for their views to be heard. Sometimes it doesn't go the way, but there's no lack of trying to be collegial, and I think that that's very important. And honestly, it's a reason why I applied for the vacancy, because I think that's the way to get things done, is to try to build consensus as much as possible. As much as you can. It's not completely possible, but then for everybody to get behind it as much as we can when the decision is made. So I think the city, I've seen other councils, and I've seen actual animosity happen at meetings, people not get together. I think that's an understated and underappreciated characteristic of Roslyn that should be, we should do what we can to keep that, because it's a good thing. As far as what I think the city could do better, I honestly, I can't think of a major policy difference I have. I'd have a number of questions and things, and I'm sure comments, but I think I've mentioned this to a couple of you or more, that I don't have any major differences with where this direction the city's headed. I think we have some major challenges coming up, with Forterra, especially, and the growth. But I'd actually struggle to say, okay, what is the city doing badly? I didn't want to get into potholes on E Street. How come they didn't fill my pothole on E Street? But seriously, if I were to say anything about things for the city, I would say that we should try to work really hard to increase staffing. I know that we have the COVID issue, and it just wreaked havoc, not only with Roslyn, but everybody. But the staff levels are, I think, dangerously low. And what that does is it makes for disgruntled folks to deal with staff, and even worse, it makes for disgruntled staff. And, we get good staff, and we want to make sure they stay, because they're the workhorses to get things done. But on the other hand, I know that the city's looking to hire more folks. So once again, the city's on top of it, but that would be one thing. And then another would be, I really think we should work on our website. Other cities our size have much better websites that are easy to navigate. And honestly, I think it could help some of the complaints I've heard of non-communication and what have you. I don't believe that's true, but I think that a better website with information better arranged and dispersed could help with some of that.
Great.
So that's all I have for that.
Okay, we're going to go to the 5th and final question. City government is made up of an executive branch and a legislative branch. Please give me an example of an action that can be made by the executive branch and an example of an action that can be made by the legislative branch.
Executive branch, is in charge of all of the city staff, right? They're the ones who direct, what people do day to day. The executive branch actually executes the codes and the ordinances that are passed by the city council. They manage the budget day to day, spend the money, basically operate the city, right? The legislative branch, in this case the city council, is responsible for policy. It's responsible, which it would be, say, we want a policy of where, for instance, the moratorium on subdivisions, right? That would be an example of a policy. We want to have a moratorium on subdivisions till we can figure this thing out. And is responsible for approving budgets that are submitted by the executive branch, and for maintaining, if you will, if that's the right use of that word in this case, of maintaining the codes, the city codes. So, for instance, if a code has to be changed, obviously the only branch that could change that would be the legislative branch. But maybe to get more to the point of the question, the legislative branch should be able to bring citizen concerns to the executive branch, but the legislative branch can't manage the city. That's up to the executive branch.
Okay, great. Good answers, Tom. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the 5 council members that are up on this that if they have any questions that pertain to these 5 for you, or any personal questions of something else that they have for you, okay? So hang tight while I go through the council members, okay?
Sounds good.
Tom Missel, any questions?
No, I don't have any follow-up questions. And Tom, thank you for your time tonight and for your answers as well. I appreciate it.
Nolan Weiss?
No further questions. Thank you, Tom, for putting your name into the hat tonight.
Kathy Cook?
I'm good.
Jeff Shear?
No further questions. Thanks for your time, Tom. Appreciate it.
And Derek Gruber?
No further questions. Thank you.
Tom, I want to say thank you for the interview. I didn't thank you at the beginning for putting in your application, and thank you very much. So at this point, I believe we'll bring all the interviewees out.
I think I lost Jenny, though, somewhere.
Okay. We will bring everybody out of the waiting room so you could all hear what's going on, but we will cut your, I believe at this point we will we'll mute them at this point while we do discussion with council.
Yeah. But okay. I think Jenny either dropped off or I'm not.
And we looks like we might have lost one of the interviewees, Jenny. So if Jenny could hear us, please call back in. So be patient here for a few minutes, okay, while we get things figured out here. I'm right now with everybody else.
Yeah, go ahead. She's got my cell phone number.
Yeah,
so
she can call.
She'll come back. I don't have Jenny.
Okay, can council hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So at this time, what we will need to do, we have 3 interviewees, and I'm going to put an option out there, and I think it's probably best that we solve it now, but we can make this vote now, or we can make the vote and appoint somebody the very next council off this interview. But if at this point, we have 3 good interviews. If somebody would like to make a motion at this point in time to appoint somebody, we would make a vote on that.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Janine Brodeen to fill the spot.
Okay.
I second.
Is there a third?
So how we did this in the past, and of course, sorry, but we raised our hands. And I know we can't do that with
We're not
cameras,
gonna-
but
Yeah.
Do a roll call.
We'll do a roll call vote,
Yeah,
is
that-
how we're gonna do it. So what we'll do is I'll continue a roll call with Janine Brodeen. And then if anybody else would like to put somebody up, please make a motion and put that person up, and we'll do the same thing. We'll do a roll call vote on that just as well, okay? Right now, Janine Brodeen has been brought up as a council member option, so let's go through the roll. Kathy Cook, nay or yay?
Yes.
Jeff Shear,
Nay.
Derek Gruber,
Yes.
Nolan Weiss,
nay.
Tom Missel.
Nay.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Tom Uren for the city council spot.
Okay, we're going to do a roll call
I'll
vote.
second that.
Okay, sorry about that. I missed the second. So was that you, Derek?
Yes.
Okay, Derek for second. I'm going to start the roll call vote. Catherine Cook,
Yes.
Jeff Shear,
Yes.
Derek Gruber,
Yes.
Nolan Weiss,
Yes.
Tom Missel.
Yes.
Okay, that's 5 unanimous votes for Tom Uren. I believe at this point, I do not need to bring, anybody needs to make a motion for the third interview, I believe at this point with the unanimous vote. Will anybody correct me if I'm wrong, please?
Oh, that's correct.
Okay, so at this point, we have appointed Tom Uren as the appointed city council member for the following months of 2021 till the new election comes out, and he'll fill in till the end of this year. Okay, now I'd like to bring interviewees back into so they can speak at this point.
Yeah, they're all able to unmute and speak, except Jenny, we lost.
Okay, so we don't have Jenny yet still. I would like to congratulate Tom Uren on his appointed position. Thank you, Tom, for your application and your great interview. And you've got a unanimous vote to be the next appointed Roslyn council member. Thank you very much.
I also want to congratulate Tom. Thank you, Tom. You'll be a great addition.
Thank you.
And
Thank you all.
What we need to do now is, this is a little different process. Obviously, I haven't done this, but we need to swear you in, Tom. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Sarah go ahead and read it off, and she'll have you repeat this back to us, okay? And then what we will do at one point in time, we'll have you come to the office and do the signage for this in the next couple days when Sarah's back in the office, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna hand this over to Sarah while she reads it off.
Okay, hi, Tom.
Hi.
Hi, okay, so I, Tom Uren,
I, Tom Uren,
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America and of the state of Washington,
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America and the state of Washington,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the
That I will-
Constitution. Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry,
That I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the laws and Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington and the laws of the city of Roslyn,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington and the laws of the city of Roslyn,
and will, to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability,
and will, to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability,
truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially,
truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially
perform the duties of the office of council member, position number 3,
perform the duties of the position of the office of Council Member 3,
and for the city of Roslyn, Washington,
and for the city of Roslyn, Washington,
as such duties are prescribed by law, so help me God.
as such duties are prescribed by law, so help me God.
Okay, Tom, you are
Congratulations.
sworn in as number 3, Roslyn
Thank you.
Council appointed. So congratulations, sir.
So he's good to go.
you are good to go as of today. As of this point, you are a council member for the rest of the evening, okay?
Okay.
So we are going to continue this meeting. Thanks, audience, for letting me go through this process. And I thought it was important that we got them going and interviewed. And now what we are going to do is we are going to move right into citizens' comments. And we will start with Glenn Rudolph. And so if we can get Glenn to raise his hand, we can unmute you. So Glenn, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, Glenn, go ahead.
Okay, I'm delighted to hear Theo's report. We're moving forward finally. This, our water transmission line is a disturbing issue we're all going to deal with together. So anyway, I'm delighted to hear that we're moving on. So, you know, the way I fix things is with underwater epoxy and duct tape. So I've plumbed like that before. I'm glad we don't have to do that in the middle of winter sometime. So anyway, thank you very much, and good luck, everybody.
Great. Thank you, Glenn. Any other comments at this time? Oh, I guess that's not. Okay. Thank you for your comments, Glenn. Let's go to number 2. I've got Ellie Blue, and if everybody has read her letter, please.
And Ellie, if you're on the phone here, I just don't see your name on here, so if you're on the phone, just hit star or *3.
Ellie, can you hit star, please? *3. Are you on with Doug?
No.
Okay, Ellie, if you're on there, you just hit star or *, the little icon, and the number 3.
Looks like someone's raised their hand on that, Ellie.
Call-in user 6 keeps raising their hand.
I see her.
Okay.
Got it.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, I can hear you, Ellie. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ellie Ballou, 145 Fifth Street. Thanks for this opportunity to speak, especially because I had some difficulties getting my comments in. I'm sorry that I have to again begin by calling out significant omissions relating to information that's being discussed in this meeting. I have details in my letter, but the greenhouse gases resolution, an actual contract for the paid parking proposal, and the resolution to ban firewood sales were not available until public comment time was shut down. I'd also like to point out that there's no agenda item regarding a new staffing position that has been advertised, that of deputy city clerk. And I'm wondering why the council isn't discussing this matter before the hiring process begins. The council is legally responsible for all expenditures and has not publicly reviewed the 2021 budget nor begun work on the 2022 budget, so I'm somewhat mystified how that can move ahead. I have a major topic which relates to wildfire preparedness. I'm extremely concerned that Roslyn does not have any implemented basic fire evacuation procedure. I'm wondering how Roslyn plans to notify its citizens of fire evacuation levels. Other entities' Facebook postings are not adequate. In mining days, there was a siren used, and it could be used again to immediately notify everyone of fire levels and evacuation needs. I'm also very concerned because evacuation routes here, it seems obvious to me and to many that if there is a need to evacuate, there'll be an almost immediate and fairly total traffic jam choking 903 from somewhere near Lake Cleolum through Roslyn and probably beyond. I'm pretty sure that our household and our neighbors won't be able to get more than toward downtown before we'll be sitting in our cars. And so I'm asking, what is the plan? I know the problem is bigger than just Roslyn, but Roslyn needs to enact a plan and communicate to its citizens what it is. I also am bringing forward the matter of the Roslyn urban forest revenues. At the June 8th council meeting, the mayor stated there's already a regulation in place that requires proceeds from the forest logging to be spent on the roof. I've asked the city staff for a citation, and I'm told this qualifies as a records request and that it may take until July 30th to receive this. And I'd like to know why. If this is an existing ordinance that he knows about, why can't I get at least a citation to it? It's not on the online Roslyn Municipal Code from what I can see. So I'm asking for that citation, and I'm asking in part because the possibility of monitoring in 2021 came up last winter and spring, and it was $7,500 plus a lot of volunteer time, and that was never made available. I believe there's significant and urgent need for mitigation to address impacts from this year's logging that will cover hydrology, habitat, soils, and wildlife impacts. And in order to prioritize and authorize such work as part of the 2022 budget, the CAC and council need to know what funds are available. So I'm closing by asking for a response from council and mayor to these specific matters, preferably by taking action at a council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ellie. Let's go to Doug Kilgore, the next citizen comments. Doug, will you please raise your hand?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, Doug, we can. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I've got two questions or 2 points to raise. One with respect to the ban on selling firewood. Reading the ordinance, it appears that this ordinance would prevent the sale of firewood that is used by people in the winter to heat their homes. Without the clarification that the firewood sale ban applies only to firewood being sold for use in open fire, you're going to create a law that prevents many of us from preparing for winter if we have not already done so before the fire season begins. My second question or point concerns the capacity of our sewer treatment system. I raised this 2 meetings ago, but have heard no clarification from anyone with respect to this. My concern has to do with the possibility that the city of Cle Elum has overused its allotted capacity and is falsely claiming to have received more than 2,000 hookup rights from that were originally attributed or owned by Suncadia or the resort. When those hookups are put into the analysis done in 2017 by the city of Cle Elum of its capacity, it appears that they have plenty of hookups for all kinds of structures that they have permitted. But there's no evidence that Suncadia has transferred these hookups to the city of Cle Elum, and that as a result, there's a very real possibility that the city of Cle Elum and the city of South Cle Elum have used up most of the available capacity for the municipalities. That would leave Roslyn with only about 50 remaining hookups instead of about the 250 that we believe we're entitled to. So this issue became more urgent in my mind as the city of Cle Elum has announced a rate study plan for the sewer system that will affect Roslyn and all of the municipalities. Has the city appointed someone to attend these meetings? Has the city found out whether this capacity issue is a real problem or just an apparent problem? I would ask that the council take action to direct the mayor and their staff to close any questions concerning this and satisfy our interests as a city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Doug. Okay, that's it for citizen comments. We are going to move into new business right now, which the very first resolution is the greenhouse gases resolution. I'm going to anticipate that every council member has looked at this. And this is pretty general. This is tied in with also the application, remember, for Public Works Board for that application. So this is just sort of part of the cleanup part of that process. This is pretty general. Most of this is already in policy of how with building codes and the UBC and how we move forward already. So can we get a motion to move this forward?
I'll make a motion for. So
either way, I'll second it.
For the greenhouse gas resolution. Sorry.
Okay, Nolan and then Derek, please. Okay, that is the resolution is passed, and we will move on to number 10 on my list, which is the paid parking contract. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to vote on the resolution, Bill. I apologize. Can we please get a nay or a yay? And on a nay, please state your name, please.
Aye.
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 Great.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Unanimous on that. We move on. We'll go to the paid parking contract. And same thing. I will hope that everybody's looked at that. We've had multiple discussions on this. It appears to be a very low budget item to do a little bit of experimental parking plan to see how it works. Very low risk. Leah has shown the pictures of the parking sign in the past. I don't believe we have anything present right now that I can put back up or have put up in this meeting. I'm not sure if you guys would like to pass this at this point, but we've had multiple discussions on it. I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to ask that we make a motion.
Just to get some more discussion going, I'll make a motion to adopt the presented with the parking plan.
Let's take that for discussion.
That was Jeff Shiro in second. Okay, let's have some open discussion, gentlemen and ladies.
Okay, well,
after you, Kathy.
Okay, I'll just say what I've said before, which is I have no problem with what Public Works has done. They've done a good job of looking at the situation. I do have a problem with the process. I do believe that this is something that will be seen as a major change in downtown Roslyn, and it should we should have the Planning Commission or public meetings. So that's why I will be voting against it.
Whoever that was, after you.
No, just asking any other discussion.
So what is our overall out the door cost? Like, I was hearing that it was nothing, then we had a little bit because of design review, and a little bit of a setup fee, but just kind of looking over it, they have some prices on here, but what is the overall cost for the city just to start this up? Just to put up, let's say, 4 signs and start the process?
I do not have, the sign, they're donating 12 signs to us at the cost of signing up, and I do not have the cost because the costs were all in front of all of us 2 weeks ago. And I want to believe it was $250. It was depending on how much you added. It was under a $500 item to do a trial and error process to see how it worked out. And they were giving us 12 signs at no cost.
And as a council, were we okay with the presented signs as we saw them on that map? But again, not setting that in stone where we would set all those all up, or we might set them all up. I think we still need to discuss that as a council if we want to go full blown with all 12 or all locations, or just do a test program just for again, I think we should have a little bit more discussion. I'm fine with moving forward with this because I still see every single Thursday through Sunday revenue that the city's missing, where it is out of towners filling our streets all the way up from end of Pennsylvania to the Huckleberry House. So I would like to move forward with this, but I think we should still have a stronger plan on our execution, where we're going, or where we want to put these signs up. Because I'm not sure if from the last meeting that we had a consensus of we wanted to go full blown or a pilot program or what. So
This is Tom. So if I can be so bold to speak, this already feels a little odd, but so I hear what Nolan's saying, and I agree with him. I've talked to a number of folks, about this ever since it was brought out, and I guess my question is it going to apply only to that area up by A Street there, where the mountain bikers, and then maybe Rungy Field, or is it now the program that's going to apply to all of Pennsylvania? I think that was the question Nolan was asking as well, right?
Well, last week, or the last council meeting, we put up the proposed locations. There were about 4 locations at Pioneer Park, Rungy Field, where they tend to park. And the other spot was going to be, I want to say it was B Street, or back by where they start to park right now by Forterra Land and the inland property. And there was a couple signs going there. And then there were possibly, we looked at Pennsylvania at possible, all these were possible locations for discussion, because they were where we focused on where tourists and recreationists go on the weekends. And those are the 2 parks outside of Penn that they park. And so the other 2 would be, that were looked at, were located in front of, I'd say we call it the east side of Penn Street. And then 4 of them would have been placed on the west side, the busy side of Penn Street. And I'm going to say this again. The entire thing is a pilot program. Nothing is set in stone. This was a cheap investment is how we looked at it, to see if we can encourage volunteer parking without having mandatory parking fees. And so I just want you guys to remember, this was the reason we looked at this program, because it was very inexpensive. It has a very easy way out, and it is purely a pilot program. So just keep that in your minds when you think about moving forward.
So I found that that area, or that map, sorry, and again, we want to make the decision now. I'm fine with doing all of this because, again, this is where tourists park. This is a prime example, and if we can make our charge of $5 a pop for the parking, if it's 2 hours, or are we thinking a full day, or what? I think it's worth a shot. And again, we're starting at halfway through our summer, so we can see if it's rough for these 2 months, and then we pull it next year, or if it's working great. Hey, we'll keep rolling with it and see where we can just let it ride. So
the only question I have is, so you drive down Pennsylvania now, and there's no parking, and 90% of it is people out of town, except on maybe some weeknights. But my question is getting the word out that for local folks, if we were lucky enough to find that the 10-minute stall in front of the post office is empty, that everybody knows it doesn't apply to local folks.
It's going to have a sign that says visitor pay parking from what we've sort of generally talked about with the sign. And I think obviously we'll let everybody know, but I think if anybody has to question if you're a local and pay for it or not, then you might not be a local. I think it's really that's straightforward. True. Okay, I'm dead serious in a way. We will have things that say paid. It probably won't say volunteer. It'll probably say paid visitor parking, and they can go up and read the kiosk on it or the signage on it. And I'm going to say the few residents that I've asked when I walk by Pioneer Park on the weekends unloading mountain bikes and said that, hey, we're thinking about this program. And the other weekend there was 32 cars parked at Pioneer Park. Can't say they're all mountain bikers, but I can tell you 2/3 of them were. The handful of the people I talked, they were like, $5, we'd park here all day. Yes, we'd help volunteer parking. It was nothing but positive. I didn't get one negative answer. People love our town. I think there's a way, this is just another way maybe people can contribute to keep the parking. I was just asked by a neighbor yesterday about they're having parking problems at the end of 2nd Street up by the old Brow at Grandma's house. mountain bikers parking there, and same thing, trying to designate an area where they feel they can park safely. And I think this is the start of that. I think a pilot program's it. You know, I know a lot of people keep going to saying it's got to go to planning. I think planning deserves to look at parking in a big overall parking plan for the city. I think this is just a pilot program, and I think it was something that a council member took and put a lot of work into because we've discussed it and wanted to try different options. So I 100% believe that any major parking plan and future parking plan should go through Planning Commission just as well as Public Works. But it definitely should go to Planning Commission. I don't necessarily think this item alone is. I've talked to Planning Commission, a couple of the Planning Commission, and I'll be honest with you, they have a lot bigger things on their table than this is not a future parking plan. This is a pilot program to see how if it works. If it fails, we go away with it. It's that simple. I'm to the point now that if it's $500 or whatever it is, I'll take my stipend from my council and I will pay for it myself and apply it to that fee if I need to.
So for me, then, this is my first, second vote now, is I understand, I hear what Kathy's saying, and I'm sure that there's going to be some disgruntlement. There's sure to be one person at least that's local, maybe a part-timer, that ends up paying and finds out it doesn't apply, and there's definitely going to be disgruntlement. It's a major change. On the other hand, for me, having listed my number one concern or issue for the city as revenues, I have to vote yes.
Any other council members with comments and concerns? You know, I think, you know, the planning department, you know, when they get through this master plan, you know, we overall need to look at general parking throughout this entire city, and I think everybody knows that. I'm just not sure we need to throw this little one at them for this discussion because it doesn't move parking, it doesn't change parking, it's asked about volunteer parking paid. So enough, I'm not going to say anymore. I think I've said enough. We have a motion on the table. I would like to do a vote at this point and find out where this stands. So let's move forward on a vote. Those that say yay, and if you say nay, please state your name.
Hey, can I ask the questions, Jeff?
Yes, Jeff, go ahead.
What's the goal?
Pardon me?
What is the goal of this?
The goal is to try to see what type of revenues we can generate in some of these recreational areas, especially the recreation areas, and see what type of funding we can generate out of a voluntary program, and then look at what, you know, it's going to take a little bit. We're halfway through the summer, another month, and we're through Labor Day, so we're going to miss our, you know, what we call our big window. But part of it is to see if we can apply some of that money to whether it be parking enforcement, maybe more improved parking in the sense of established parking with that funding in these areas. It might be able to sustain enough that we can have officers drive by for other security reasons to become issues. I think designating parking is where these types of things would go to a bigger plan with the planning department or historic planning commission. But the goal for this is to see what types of revenues we can generate on a voluntary system and see if it's worthy to continue this type of program. Because I think there's also a thought that there might be a possible mandatory parking down the road to plan if we have revenue issues and can't control parking. And so this was really just a simple way to start and see what kind of input we get from visitors.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Why don't we just do a roll call vote right now since there's only 5 of you on council. I cannot vote. Let's go with Tom Missel.
I vote yes. Aye.
Nolan Weiss.
I vote yes.
Catherine Cook.
No.
Tom Uren.
Aye.
Jeff Shear.
Yes.
Derek Gruber.
Yes.
Okay, that is 5 nays and 1 nay. We will move this forward, and we are going to do a pilot program with this, and we will keep our fingers crossed and see how it goes. And we can still have discussions as we move forward on the sign, for starting with the where the signs go in those locations and how many. I think that's open discussion at this point, but we're going to move forward with the contract. Okay, thank you.
Thank you to Lee Hatfield. Sorry, thank you to Lee Hatfield and staff for the work.
A huge thank you to Leah Hadfield for the work she's put into it. And really, this was, it was just an idea she had and thought it was another way to help generate a little revenues and do a pilot program to see what type of, consistency we can get out of our tourists in the sense of volunteered parking, and if we end up ever needing to go to a paid parking system. So thanks, Leah Hadfield. Let's move to number 11. Let's go to the resolution to ban firewood sales during the city burn ban. And has everybody reviewed this policy? And do they have it? We can't have a question until we make a motion. So if somebody would like to have discussion, let's make a motion and move this.
Yeah, I'll move to adopt.
Can we get a second?
I'll second it. Oh, after Tom.
Okay, open discussion.
Where's this?
There's a bunch of typos on it. Brandy Tapla does not work for the city anymore. We should probably
you know what? That was the attorney's office. They probably we'll update that.
Yeah, I apologize. The attorney printed this out and didn't change the clerk name, so we will have that done. Thank you.
Where is this coming from? The fire department's putting this out, or
The mayor actually requested.
The mayor requested it?
Yeah.
Because I do see the comments, the citizen comments earlier about sale of firewood for winter purposes. Like, I'll be buying firewood here in a month or two. So I just don't.
Are you buying it in the city of Roslyn?
Well, does that matter though? I'm just being that.
The seller in the.
But this only regulates in the city boundary, Nolan. So it just regulates the sale within the city limit.
So that guy sells firewood on the side of the road, and I want to just stock up for the winter. I'm totally fine with this, but I don't. I think it's a little restrictive, without having clarification to it. Because so somebody goes and cuts a tree down for firewising, and then they live in Roslyn and they sell it to their neighbor for $100. They can't do that. It's like, I think it's like, I'm fine with it. I think the language just needs to change a little with saying selling bundles of firewood or selling, I don't know, better attorney language, but I really just think it's kind of we're a firewood town. I still burn firewood, so that's my only thing. I heard the citizen comment, turned my thought around, and so yeah, I'm right there. I agree with it once again. I just think that the verbiage it could be modified a little.
I agree with Nolan as well. Yeah, that's true. I'm saying that it does spell out in there about outdoor burning of firewood, but a lot of people do burn firewood here, and they got to buy it, and we buy it in the spring and summer and in the early part of fall, and you're going to limit that. So I think Section 1, ban of sale of firewood, needs to have some better wording with it. I don't like the way it's written right now from a legal standpoint. There's only one reference to outdoor burning, and I think it needs to go to like maybe campfire wood or whatever. And I know the reason behind it, and I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But people do need. A lot of people have firewood as a main staple of heating their homes in the fall, winter, and so I get that. So I just think maybe Section 1 needs to be spelled out a little clearer, in my opinion. So
I agree, Tom.
Because technically, that guy on the side of the road, I could go try to buy a cord of wood from him, and technically I can't. I'm not, again, buying a bundle for my campfire. I'm just buying it for the winter, but I can't buy it during the burn ban. It just, yeah.
Well, we could do some rewording on it. I mean, we can send it back. I just saw this for my first time and was not even aware of it till a citizen told me that we were getting this coming out. So I agree that the wording could be better. but I think there's also, I got to be careful how I state this, but we probably need to use common sense a little bit on how we're looking at the situation. I think we should send it out and get it reworded, and I think we all know what we're trying to do. We're not trying to ban you from your firewood in the winter. I think that's pretty common sense, and I get it that legally it doesn't state that. So why don't we send this back, and we will have it reworded, and we'll relook at it in a future council meeting at this point in time.
And sorry to be that complaint. It sounds dumb, but I'm sorry to have that complaint.
One thing I would add is I don't want to delay on this very long.
No.
I'd like to see the next council meeting with new language because it is a big issue.
Yeah.
And it's still all the way up to the lake. I mean, I get that, and I see it on going up to Wenatchee.
Yeah, so this is only in the city. This is only our city, so.
I get that, but I mean, it's a big issue. If we could nip it in the bud here, we got a big fire risk here, and I don't think we need to be selling campfire wood on the side of the 903. So.
Okay, so let's have this sent back and see if they can come up with a better variety of verbiage, so it's more direct into like bundled firewood sales or something. However, the attorney needs to put the lingo, and then let's get this back. Apparently this is part of the solution to solve the problem that we've stared at for over a year now.
Yep.
And so just realize that. So I will send this back to admin, and we will hopefully get it back by the next council meeting. Okay? Jeff, go ahead.
Point of order. There's a motion and a second on the table, so you still need to have a vote.
Yes. So I'm sorry about that, Jeff. Thank you for the procedural adjustment there. Thank you. Let's do a roll call vote on where this stands, and then we will move it on from there. Tom Missel?
No.
Nolan Weiss?
No. Do we have to do a vote? Why can't we just table? Why can't we just?
Open motion.
I know there's a motion, but why can't I remend my motion and wait for another time and wait for the attorney's update?
Does it hurt us just to vote it down and then we turn it back?
Sorry, no.
Okay. Tom, you're in?
No.
Kathy Cook?
No.
Derek Gruber?
No.
And Jeff Shear? Okay. So we have declined this. That is a nay, and we will send this back for better verbiage, and we will hope it reads better when we get it back on the next council meeting. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much. We are done with new business, and what we will do is we're going to go to unfinished business right now. And number 13, there's been some questions about the glass panels at Pennsylvania. So Nolan is the chair of Public Works. Would you like to just give a quick fill-in on where that sits right now?
Yeah, so just in case, so everybody knows the history of the purple glass in front of base camp. We replaced the sidewalks and talked about replacing the glass. So now we're where we're at with our options, kind of. The glass is still sitting and waiting to be poured or installed, and so we're kind of at a standstill with now what we're fully wanting to do. Our recommendation from Public Works is to fill the cavities and place the purple glass in the concrete, so it won't be that shine through that it has, but it will still have the purple glass in it. We would do that while paying for the engineering for it. I believe that was part of it. Or if the owner of base camp wants to have the see-through with the glass, he would have to pay for the retaining wall and the work done there, with the city paying for the engineering. So I hope I got all of that right. We would like to get this done. It's just with budget constraints and where we're at and what the whole process of the sidewalk and the glass squares, we hope to get this done. So did I miss anything, Michelle or Jeff?
No, other than that, we do have that 20,000 that Tom was able to secure toward the project,
Sorry,
which is
forgot that.
under what the bid came in at, but that's just kind of side information.
And so that's the information where we're sitting at City Council right now. No motion needed at this point, just purely informational. Okay, anybody have any, we can't really have discussion on that, really, if anybody has any questions?
No, they can discuss. I mean, I think that's what we're kind of looking for.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from council?
Just like to see it move forward. And I realize it's probably not going to happen now until after Labor Day weekend, based on tourist traffic and use of the sidewalk and being able to use that building base camp. It's not going to be able to be done at least until after Labor Day weekend. So that's my concern.
So, Tom, just to clarify, when you're saying to see it move forward, are you talking about the proposal that Nolan put forth?
I like the proposal Nolan put forth. That makes the most sense going forward. Unless the owner wants to pay the difference, this could have been done a long time ago. Now we've got the extra money to do our part of it and get it finished. I'm all for that.
I'm going to make a recommendation that we make a motion. Chris would like to do this topic. Before we make a motion, we just identified a business owner would like to make comment to it. So can business owner please raise your hand so we can identify you? Can you hear us? Okay.
I believe I can hear you. Can you?
Yep. Go ahead. Go ahead. Why don't you comment?
Yeah. So,
Audio is going in and out.
yeah, I just like a little bit. I mean, I appreciate all the effort that's gone into getting this, etc. There's a speaker to do that. Is that better, Nolan?
Yep.
So, I appreciate the effort that's gone into this, but I do want to point out the history here is that Roslyn is a National Historic District, and those translucent glass panels are the last of that history, right? They probably used to be along the brick, and they were certainly along base camp, and I know they were down by the cafe as well. And when the sidewalk project came along, I spoke to the city about that. The plan was to replace them. The city already has done and paid for all of the engineering to place them properly with the translucent glass. And the deal was that I would buy the panels and the city would install them. And I upheld my part of the deal. I bought those panels several years ago, and they've been sitting there since. And the idea that, we're supposed to be a National Historic District, and now you guys want to just say, like, oh, well, never mind the translucent glass, we're going to set them in concrete. I mean, you've already done the engineering, and you made a deal. And I upheld my part of the deal. Those panels were $12,000. And the work could have been done during the original project had the city properly managed that project. All the engineering was done. It's not this council's fault, but I just feel the city has an obligation to uphold your end of the bargain.
I would agree with Chris. I think we should try and find the money to do it correctly.
I'm for you too, Kathy. Chris, you're totally right about the last historical part of Roslyn. It is a beautiful feature. I remember it from when I was a kid, and I think we would be half butting it if we just put them in concrete. If we can find the funding, like Kathy said, I'm all for it. I would love just to get this done, but yeah, that's again, yeah, I totally hear you. I totally hear you.
What is the extra amount necessary to do it the historic way?
We got one bid and it was $27,000, I think, for the whole thing. Am I right? 25?
Not including the materials?
It was 27 with no description. It was just a lump sum number. There was no breakdown description. It was a contractor name with an amount. No funding described in a breakout sheet of, labor, concrete, formwork, or anything like that. It was just a one bid at 27,000.
Was that 27,000? Now, granted, that sounds like a bid too simplistic. It need to be scrutinized a lot. But was that theoretically at least based on the engineering that I'm assuming Chris is right that was approved? Is that based on that? And is it absent the cost of the panels? That I'm assuming, Chris, you're still donating.
Well, can I just answer that? So the panels are already done, bought. They've been sitting on top of one of the shipping containers at City Hall for a few years. So they're paid for, they're done. And so and then, the bid was based on the engineered drawings that include properly placing the glass panels to historic standards. And what I neglected to point out is that if you don't follow your existing engineering, then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go do new engineering, because you're going to have to seal up the voids that enter it. That's the bathroom of base camp. So you'd have to engineer sealing up and making waterproof the wall where those openings are in the basement of base camp. So from my perspective, I don't see how you're going to save any money by going and paying for new engineering and then ensuring that a underground wall is waterproof.
So what you're saying is at this point we don't have enough information to compare apples to apples.
So sorry, Chris, you're talking. Sorry. Not to cut you off, but when we set it out too, and we only got one back, can we do it again and over solicitate? How many postings? We just put it up in the Daily Record, or do we ask the county, the chamber? Do we ask everybody that we can possibly ask? Put up bulletins all over Cle Elum, Roslyn, Ronald, and see if we can get more than just one person. I'm not sure if that's the treasurer's gig, but was that posted heavily? If we didn't, I would like to try that again just to see if we get more than one, because kind of shocked we only got one.
I would agree with that. And also, would it be out of line to ask, I don't know if this is his area of practice, to ask Theo to take a look and then give at least a rough order of magnitude of, or to verify what Chris said and what the additional cost might be if we went the other way. At least then we'd know. I mean, if the differential is only $5,000, then that's one thing. But if Chris, with all due respect, I'm just saying, if you're not totally correct and the differential is 20,000, that's a whole nother thing altogether. So
Nolan and Tom, to clarify, so this is the third time that we've put this out to bid, actually, in the last, since the sidewalk project happened. So we put it out 2 times before this, and it went out to all the same venues that the library project went out to. So
and what are those? Just out of curiosity.
Sarah left, and I couldn't list them off the top of my head here.
Okay.
But Mark Brown is the one that gave us all of those.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly most of the building papers and building sites, Nolan, is it gets posted to that contractors go to for project bidding. It doesn't get much broader than that.
Okay.
It will be a prevailing wage job at this point. There was an option on the table put out to the owner. I'm just going to say all the options that were out there, but there was an option to put out to the owner that we would give the right-of-way permit, because it is in a city right-of-way, that if he were to choose to hire a non-union contractor to do it himself, that he was able to do that as an option for cost savings. Obviously, the city cannot do that themselves. So that was an option also put out there. And then, the other thing, just so everybody is aware, is, the brick did have 2 openings that were filled in during this process, and we found cavity spaces when the sidewalk was moved at that time also that were historic. So realize that those were filled in at the time also. And so I'm just going to put that out there. It's up to council what you'd like to do.
Jeff, one question is, when they filled in the cavities in front of the brick, was that an extra to the contract for the sidewalk there?
Not that I'm aware of.
I think one.
Okay, so a change order.
I think one was a change order, wasn't it?
The change. Well, the work that they extensively did was where the sidewalk elevation was on the north side of the building, on parallel with Penn Street. They had a big void to fill up in there. That was a known void, I believe, in the building plan set, where there were some elevation issues, and so that was a void they dealt with. And then there possibly might have. I mean, obviously, we're council, so we're not running those projects. So I can't answer that. The void that was put all over Facebook in front of the brick, I can't answer if that was a change order or not.
And I don't even know off the top of my head. We could go back and look, but I don't recall the actual filling of those cavities themselves being a change order. There may have been, the change order may have been, so they used like a CDF fill to fill those in. And it's quite possible that we went over on material because some of those voids were larger than we had intended. So there may have been a change order for that. But as far as filling them in, that was part of the original plan set.
Okay. The only reason I ask is I was just in my mind trying to get just a rough order of magnitude of. So once again, it's the owner, with all due respect, I think, Chris, but he's saying that if we don't do what the plans say, there'll be more work and extra expense. I was just trying to get an idea of maybe what that might have been by comparing it to whatever was required at the brick. But once again, I'm exceeding the legislative branch's mandate.
Yeah, and everybody understands that during just so everybody's clear and understanding the construction process of what will need to happen is the sidewalk will be removed. And, the existing cavity space, there will be nothing of those walls that can be saved. So the existing walls will be removed. There will be new footings put in, a new wall system put in, which will just as well need to be waterproofed, no differently than if that wall was capped off without a void. There is no difference in that. Mm-hmm. Pouring concrete against concrete is a cold joint, and no matter what, either one of those situations will need the exact same approach to waterproof. Mm-hmm. So just be aware of that.
Another thing, too, is, okay, so either way we go, let's just say the purple glass goes in, who's liable for starts leaking in 2 years? Like, that's one, or we put the voids in and or put the city of Roslyn. The city of Roslyn. So, yeah. I wish we just would have done them, but now we got to figure it out. But man, the glass panels.
So, we'd like to move this. So, I mean, I'm not. I guess the option would be at this point. We send it out to bid if that's what you guys want to see the real numbers. It's in your hands at this point.
I would sure like to see a real number so we can work with it. I mean, right now, we have nothing.
So what happens if it comes back at $35,000?
Then we know it's $35,000, and we don't. We as a city can't afford that. But
Well, there's a way.
there's always a way. Good point, Tom.
Well, I got 42,000 in a. Or we have 42,000 in a lodging tax account. That would fit the historic nature of Roslyn and can be used for that. And that was always the fallback position by getting 20 from the county. So for some reason, in the back of my mind, I was thinking $60,000 per project. And that's just, I don't know where I got the number from. So when that bid came in, I was like, that was a garbage bid anyway. But I would like a more realistic number to go forward so we can get this done. It's not going to get done before Labor Day. There's no way. You can't do that to that business, tourism downtown. But we need to get it figured out and move it forward. It needs to be finished. I would really like to see it done. It's been way too long. So
we will be lucky to get this done in fall, just to be honest with you. If anybody knows the building industry right now, this will take a few weeks to get out to ready for bid at this point again to send out, which is fine. It usually needs to run for 3 weeks. That'll take us into the middle of September. And the chances of locking in a contractor immediately are going to be slim to none, I would assume. So just keep all those variables in mind. You guys have it in your hands right now. You have 6 council members there to make the decision on what you'd like to do.
And I'll add one more variable in case you haven't already noticed. So the glass panels that are currently there are officially, while they were failing before, they're definitely failing now. So there's basically plywood over the top of those. So this needs to happen one way or the other, however you want to move forward, sooner than later. So
I would make a motion to send it back out for bid.
I second.
Aye.
Okay, let's just do a roll call off real quick. Tom Missile?
I'm an aye, and I'm an optimist.
Nolan Weiss?
Aye.
Tom Uran?
Aye.
Kathy Cook?
Aye.
Jeff Shear?
Thank you.
Pardon me?
Aye, and let's get it fixed.
Derek Gruber?
Yes.
Okay, there's our answer. We will move that forward and send it out for bid. Okay, let's move into number 14, Mayor, Council, and Concerns and Initiatives.
I have 2 real quick ones. I didn't give an update on the Upper County Community Rec Center last month. It was a busy month with that. We appointed a board of directors to the nonprofit to manage the project. And by the way, I was appointed to the board. We had a board meeting on June 8th where officers were elected. We changed the name of the executive committee to the project committee. We had a project meeting, a committee meeting on the 15th of June, where we were informed by the subcommittee dealing with the search process for the consultant. They had reviewed the applications that came in. They whittled it down to 3, did final interviews, and they selected a consultant who will be making a presentation to us on the 20th of this month. The consultant is Burke Consulting. So, and then that's that project. And then some good news for the city of Roslyn, from the Lodging Tax Committee, the Consolidated Lodging Tax Committee. We're having a meeting on July 23rd. And I fought, and Rhonda fought really hard for some funding for the kiosk project and the grand opening of it. And they weren't allowed the funding. But because some things didn't go this year, we're re-looking at that next Friday, a week from Friday. And they are in the mix for that. And they should be, keep our fingers crossed, because we got 3 now with Kathy Cook, myself, and Rhonda. We're going to get them some funding. It was a great event. It's a great project. It's a beautiful cemetery. So on the positive side, we're going to get to fix what we didn't get done last year and get them some more money is my hope. So that's all I got.
I just wanted to say thank you to Jeff Adams and all the rest of the volunteers. Casey Craven that put on the 30 Mile Fire remembrance, the 20-year, anniversary. It was a really great turnout. Just all around awesome job with the road closed, our public works. I know Jeff said it earlier, but I just wanted to make sure to echo that. It was an awesome event, so great job.
Definitely, thank you. Yeah, thanks for putting that on. And I have my issue tonight is we are still holding our council meetings on the computer. And, everyone else around us is holding in-person council meetings. Now, as I understand it, and I think Michelle can correct me if I'm wrong, our city attorney has said that we cannot hold in-person council meetings until we are able to, in some way, broadcast the meetings so that people who aren't able to attend in person can see the meetings. And that's about the Open Public Meetings Act. So my question is, how do we do that? Because we need to actually get back down to City Hall and have real meetings in person. So any ideas? Nolan?
Hey, I've offered. I said, call me when you want me to help, and I'll set up a camera. I'm just waiting. I hear you, Kathy. I wanna be in the room too with all the great council members and our public. I'm over it. So whenever they need help, I'll be there.
Okay, that's great. Michelle, what do you think about that?
Well, what I think doesn't play in. But yeah, according to the attorney, what she's saying is that we need to be able to, so it's more than just broadcast it, Nolan, which, and I think Sarah and I have already talked to you about this. So we have to have a way so that each individual in the room can be heard clearly for everybody that would be on the phone. So it has to be a meeting that incorporates both, so people can participate either virtually or in person. And then, the other concern that the mayor has expressed, and this is not from the attorney, but the mayor's concerned, some of the other cities are conducting their council meetings in a different room. We're very limited in this room as to what we can accommodate in here, and that's even with, when before COVID, when we were trying to have a meeting and people are trying to conduct business in City Hall. So the mayor had talked about potentially looking at a room that we could utilize to hold the council meeting so that we can facilitate the in-person. But yeah, the two components from the attorney are everybody has to be able to be clearly heard. If not, then any motion that is made can be challenged and not found to be valid. And so also that everybody has to be able to participate either virtually or in person. And so right now, all we have is this speaker that we all huddle around if there's more than one person. We don't have individual microphones. So, that would be the biggest thing, which we've got in here. And I think, Nolan, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah said you can wire those into the computer somehow?
Yeah, we can wire that board in that the city purchased for the sound system. And then I'm also thinking we should buy a smart TV, some kind of a smart screen. Then we could just host a Zoom meeting on that smart screen. And so we would be looking at a 32-inch smart TV with everybody on it, and they would be looking at us with that camera, and we just a sound bar or some audio speakers from a computer, and I think we should be okay. But again, I'd have to test it, and we just have a couple trial and errors. But yeah, we could figure it out before the next city council meeting if we make time.
New regulation, what the attorney said.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Jeff.
Is that new regulation that the attorney said? Because it sounds like a bunch of BS to me.
No, so the way she described it, she sent us a whole email, but basically the June 30th lifting did not lift the restrictions on the Open Public Meetings Act. So we can hold in-person meetings. We just have to be able to allow people to participate still by the same virtual component. So we have to be able to run the virtual meeting in conjunction with the in-person meeting, and we have to be able to make sure that everybody can be heard clearly. And that's the biggest challenge, is we're just not, right now anyway, we're not set up. But like I said, if Nolan can wire those into the computer,
Yeah, I guess we don't even need a screen. We don't even need a screen because nobody shows their pretty faces. Only us four.
No, the screen's not a requirement. I mean, I think people would very much like that, but it's actually not a requirement.
Yeah,
It's being clearly heard.
Yep. Yeah, I can help out when I can set a little time, and if I have a little help from the city, I can just one person, just for some trial. Yeah, that's all I need. I can have it by next city council meeting.
I'll help if that's any help.
Second opinion. I think they're wrong. I dealt with this company for a long time. There it is.
Okay, I've got a couple comments I'd like to respond to. We tend to get this letter every other council meeting, and I understand that it's very frustrating getting information a day or two prior to a council meeting and trying that information. I want to remind everybody that we are coming off a COVID year. We're coming off a bad budget year last year. We've been short-staffed for over a year. It's incredibly hard to get all this information put together like we used to prior on Fridays to get it. It's just as frustrating for council members to have to come home, but this is part of the COVID issue that we've had to all deal with. And I think that the continued repetitive harping on the administrative part of the city is getting very, very thin with people. We all understand that we'd like to get this information out sooner, and at this point, with the help, there's a reason why we have a part-time position out right now to see if we can expedite these things, but it's frustrating for all of us. But beating the drum, I think, every other week and repetitively the same thing doesn't do it. That's how I feel about those comments. There's some wildfire comments I think that we need to get to. We've had a fire in 2016 called the Jolly Mountain Fire, and we've dealt with evacuations before. This is not new. This is something that we have had a plan. The county has an entire plan that the city is involved in, and I'm going to explain part of this process. And what this is back in, looks like 2019, the Kittitas County Emergency Management Group is called an Everbridge program, and you can sign up for it and you can get alerts for it. And this program is ran by the Kittitas County Sheriff, who will do all dispatching for anybody of evacuations. The city of Roslyn, that does not do that. What will happen if we have a fire? And we've been down this. This is just an improved system from 2016. And I'll just sort of give an example. So what will happen if we had a fire up by the lake? It will take all forces, but the Kittitas County Sheriff Task Force is the immediate contact, and that State Patrol follows in with that. Roslyn PD, Clown PD, all the other entities fall within that, underneath that group, and we will take direction from the Kittitas County Sheriff Emergency Task Force Management Team for this if there is a fire breakout. And what will happen is if there's a fire at the lake, there's more likely a chance that they will have us hold in our town. And they will probably evacuate the residents that are nearest to the fire and exit them down 903. And then they'll probably do a stair-step effect as they move out of those areas. As if a fire were to spread and move to the southeast where we would be, they would stair-step that and they would move to Ronald and then would move to us. There would not be a need of a mass evacuation of everybody at one time. We are in the woods. We're not in a valley where you have grass fires that typically spread at a much, much rapid rate than a forest fire itself. And so there is a plan in place. I will say this. From what I've learned with the city of Roslyn and where we're at, we still have lots to do and lots of ways to try to get the residents informed on this process. But there is an overall plan through the county that our fire department and police department is heavily involved in, and when the time comes, the proper people will be notified on it, whether help is needed with evacuation, what the job is for the Roslyn Fire Department, what the job is for the volunteer Roslyn firefighters on what if they're going around notifying like they did during Jolly Mountain. If you remember, if you lived in the city of Roslyn and did not leave to Seattle, you would have had a knock on your door by a yellow shirt person with a nice little sign that said, you're in stage 2, we recommend that you take the possibility of possible evacuation. So if you lived here, you've already experienced this in 2016. There is a plan in place. And so I wanted to point this out because I think sending this letter basically saying that we don't have a plan, and it's just not true. And so I have to speak to this because there very much is a county-wide plan, and that's what we fall under. But we are behind as a city, and we will work better, and I'll make sure that we work better with the fire department and other agencies to inform our residents and figure out how we keep them informed. But there is a plan, and it's been in place, and it's tended to have worked in a fire that we did not expect. So I just wanted to make sure we spoke to that. That sort of threw me off at the letter because if you've lived here and you do understand, unless you were in Seattle at the time, that they knocked on your door and they handed you a notice that told us what to do. So please, these are great questions to ask council maybe before they even get to council, and we can inform you on those. So that and the administrative things were things that stuck out to me today that, it's hard on all of us during this COVID year. I don't like getting home and reading 40 pages of information on Monday afternoon, but guess what? I signed up for it, and I'm okay with that. I still love what I do for the city of Roslyn. I don't mind giving my time and dedicating my time to every resident in this town and what makes it better. So I'm sorry you don't get it when you want it. There's nothing I can do about it at this point. If we get help in the office and we can expedite it, we'll all get it back on Fridays and life will be much better. So that's my comments. I just had to speak to it. I just feel like office is getting a beat down, and I don't think it's continually appropriate that every other council meeting they get a beat down on the same topic. So I apologize, but I had to speak to that.
And I'll just add really quick too, and this is not common knowledge, I'm assuming, to most people, but there's a lot of times that we don't receive, for example, I'm sometimes receiving documents that would come as attachments, resolutions, for example, or ordinances from the attorney that we don't get until the day of the council meeting sometimes. So in order to keep those things moving forward and not have to delay it 2 more weeks, oftentimes we will list it on the agenda if we know that it's coming. But yes, I mean, the frustration of receiving that information in a short time frame is realized by all of us, including in the office. So, if there's something specific, and I know I've chatted with Ellie about this, and she has asked for a few, if there's something specific that you guys are wanting, and we've got it, and maybe we just haven't had a chance to upload it, I mean, that's really easy to shoot just an email, and we can respond to that email. The other thing that Ellie talked about in there is the resolution that she had asked for, I think, that the city took as a public records request, and it was something about July 30th was the deadline that the city would return it to her. So I'm the first to admit here that, I mean, all of those resolutions, including that one, are online. Now, finding that online is a extremely cumbersome process because they're not overly organized, and Tom kind of spoke to that in the council interviews, that the website's not the most user-friendly. And so to give a little bit of background, one of us in this office at some point here will have to go through those as well. They're available to the public as well to go through, but one of us in this office will have to search through and open each and every one of those and find out which one was that exact ordinance. And so I'm not going to say that justifies, that still maybe exceeds the time frame that some might find acceptable, but that's really honestly what it does. I mean, we have access to the same information, and we have to sort through it just the same way. And it's extremely frustrating for me because it takes a lot of time sometimes that I honestly don't have. So I'm not making excuses. That's just the reality of the disorganization that has existed by nobody's fault. It's just what's in our lap, I guess.
Well, I want to say, keep up the great work, staff. I get my notes when I get them, and I read them when I get them. I check it every day, especially Monday and Tuesday, because that's when I know it's going to be full. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate the hard work, so keep it up, and thank you so much for what you guys do.
Hey, one more thing before we get out of here. I think Mr. Adams forgot to say one thing. Duration picnic on Saturday.
Oh.
Be there.
I didn't want to self-promote the best event in this town, most historic great event in this town. I'm sorry, but I didn't want to promote it myself.
Well, I'm going to promote it because we didn't have it last year.
That's right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thanks for putting up with me for this meeting. I was a little unexpected to get here, so I hope it went well.
You're doing good, Jeff. I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's very good meeting.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, Tom.
Congratulations, Tom. You're in, and we'll see you every other week.